Hello and welcome to Walking the Earth podcast. Previously, you heard part one of our crossover episode with Kevin Koskella from Freedom Lovin Podcast. In part one, we talk about freedom, Bangkok, traveling in cities versus towns, and what got Kevin on the road. Also, relationships, traveling solo versus traveling with others. In part two, we get into a few different topics, including getting scammed while on the road, lady boys, debt, traveling when you think you can't, and going against the grain. So sit tight. Here is part two of our crossover episode with Kevin Koskella from Freedom Lovin Podcast.
Okay, so what about you guys? Have you had any like really challenging experiences like on the road or?
In challenging
Mike,
in what
I defer.
sense? Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
just
mean like traveling with people or like?
no, just I meant like just in like getting stuck somewhere or something bad happens and you're like, okay, now what do I do?
Yeah, I've had some challenging experiences. You know, got kind of conned in India with a phone, and that's it makes me angry to tell the stories. I don't want to go too much into it, but the moral of the story was I got conned and I was trying to fix a phone. It didn't. The guy was trying to scam me. But ultimately, you just kind of learn. All right, this happened. It's okay. Roll with it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So those kind of things happen. But I've also had experiences where maybe I was supposed to meet up with someone in a certain city, and you turn up there, and then like they're not there. And in this case, it's happened a couple times in India where the city I would show up to wouldn't have great connectivity or internet.
Yeah.
And so then I'd be stuck, and the internet's only available from this short window during the day, and you don't get in touch with them. You don't know where they are. You don't know what to do. And so when I guess it would bother me when I did make a plan and then I wasn't able to meet up with the people I was trying to meet up with, then that would be frustrating, I guess. But then you'd figure it out. It always works out at the end.
Yeah.
So
the one I don't have many travel experience, or not nearly as many as Mike. I've only gone overseas once, and I went to Israel on birthright, and I stayed in a hostel, and that was fine. But then I stayed at some, I guess it was off the beaten path hotel, and got some stuff stolen. I had a camera stolen, a cell phone stolen. That really upset me. But then, like you said, Mike, you just gotta, you realize it's gone. I'm not getting it back. It really sucked. I was really upset because there were some amazing photos that on there. And I just bought the camera before the trip. Don't ever buy a camera right before a trip.
And nowadays your phone is your camera, I feel like.
Yeah.
As a minimalist
exactly.
traveler, I think a smartphone is actually the greatest thing you can travel with.
Oh yeah.
Like right? It's like it's your camera, it's your MP3 player, it's your internet device, it's like in your pocket.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
It's amazing. Yeah, I think as far as that stuff goes, like I just expect every place I go, I'm gonna get ripped off once. There's always going to be a time where I get ripped off. Just hopefully it's not a horrible, like I don't get a bunch of money stolen, but it's like there's always, is every country you go to, there's always scammers. And like when I went to Saigon, I just remember I stepped out of my hotel the next morning, and I had no idea about anything. I was looking at my phone, looking at my map, obviously, and some guy pulled up on his bike and offered me a ride, and I'm like, nah, I don't think so. And then he actually was able to talk me into it.
Oh wow.
And no money, no, not like, oh, I'm like, how much do you want? And he's like, oh no, we'll figure it out later, which of course is the worst thing.
Oh my God. Yeah,
never want to figure it out
do
later.
that.
Yeah. So I got so he drove me outside of town to like across the river, and then he's like, yeah, we're gonna go on this boat, and you're gonna it's really cheap. It's only, and it was like $30 US. And I'm like, that doesn't sound that cheap. And he's like, oh yeah, it's the best deal. It's way more if you do it with the tour company. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound so great. But he was taking me there, so I went and I got on the boat. It was this old rickety boat that, like, I don't know. They took me around this.
$30.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Well,
yeah. So
yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
yeah, just to finish it. So they took me around. Him and his buddy like took me in this boat, and they went around like just this little part of the river, and they came back, and he's like, okay, I need the money now.
What?
And it was like 60 total US, and I'm like,
$60.
No way, this is crazy. And I told him, like, that's crazy. I'm not paying you. This is not worth it.
Right.
And we're standing there arguing, and I'm like, I don't know this city. I don't know what he's gonna do, and plus, I don't even know. Like, I need a ride back to town. So I said, okay, I don't have the money, but take me to an ATM and I'll pay you. And so that's,
well,
I see. He took you for a ride, literally.
Literally, yeah.
Well, it's that story, makes me think about is like, yeah, that's gonna happen, right? You're gonna get ripped off, and that's way more than anything should cost there, right? Like $30 is like a whole days of everything expenses, maybe more than that, like for your accommodation and your food and your beer, whatever.
Right.
Like, so if you paid like $60 or something, he obviously was scamming you. But at the same time, I'm thinking about that now. I'm like, well, at least when you get taken for a ride in Southeast Asia, it's only for something like $60, and it's
right.
So at least when you do get scammed, it's not like a tremendous amount,
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is, and there's nothing happened. I didn't like lose any limbs or nothing really.
That's
horrible
cool.
happened.
I had that story also reminds me of a run-in in Saigon I had. I was walking down the street. I think I was just trying to find another. I was in District 1 and I was looking around for another bar or something. And these two lady boys on motorbike came by and they start kind of saying, "Hey," calling out to me. And I'm like, "No, no, thank you, no, thank you." And one actually literally got off and starts walking toward me. And at this point, I got really freaked out. I literally did a 180, just turn around and walk the other direction, because I didn't know this person. She's gonna like beat me up or whatever. It was.
Was it a big lady boy? Was it?
It was a dude, just a dude-sized person. No, but I don't know what they have, and what their whole. It was just very uncomfortable.
Oh, okay.
I felt like I was gonna get robbed or something.
Right.
That was gonna happen.
And
that could get kind of ugly. Yeah, I remember my first night in Thailand. I just grabbed this little hotel right on the beach, and I walked out. It was kind of late at night, and I was super tired. And I just wanted to sleep, and I walked out onto my balcony, and I looked down, and there's these girls like waving at me, and they're like, "Hey," and they're like, "Yeah, come down and have a drink with us." And
too
I'm
good
like,
to be true.
No, I'm good. I'm actually just gonna go to sleep right now. And I'm like, and then I went to bed thinking, "Wow, the girls are friendly here."
Bro, yeah. That's actually that. Yeah, at first
and
time
then,
I
of course.
And then, of course, they extorted you for
course.
money some
Well,
way.
I had the same reaction though.
Well, let him finish. Wait, what happened?
The next day, I saw the one that was talking, and it was a lady boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same. The first time I was in Southeast Asia it was a business trip to Singapore, and I remember thinking, like, I was just walking down the bars, and these, every bar, there's girls just calling to you, like, "Hey, hey," and I'm like, wow, girls are really friendly here, And then you come to learn later, like, yeah, they're a prostitute or they're a lady boy, the ones that are calling to you, or both, or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like girls are not normally aggressively pursuing dudes. This is not just a thing in Southeast Asia where girls just aggressively pursue dudes. They have
I think there's a fantasy for a lot of guys that there's some place in the world that it's all like the girls are all just going out of their way to pursue guys.
Right. Is there anywhere
it's
in
kind of fun though, because it's like you just kind of feel like a rock star sometimes. You're just walking down, like, there's all these girls calling at you. You're like, okay, it's still.
And our friend Yoel that was on the episode on our show actually said he was living in Hong Kong, and that they did, he's a African American guy, and they do go after you like legitimately, like girls were interested in him and things like that. But have you come across like other places that you've traveled where it wasn't like a scam or somebody extorting for money? Legitimate like interest from the ladies.
I think there is legitimate interest. If you're like a foreigner in these countries, like there is legitimate interest, like, because you're different. And also there is an extra element of, because you're coming from a Western country, you're obviously coming from a place where you probably have more money than they do. So that, and I'm not saying that factors in with everybody, but that can be a factor. So you can find the whole range, I would say, like girls that are interested because they think maybe of money, girls that are legitimately interested because they think you're interesting, or girls that just think you're different, and girls that are prostitutes. I think you can find the whole range of interactions.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is kind of like when you go to Vietnam, or I don't know about, like, probably the same in Thailand, but when you go to Vietnam, it's like the tables are turned somewhat if you're a white male.
Yeah.
it is very different than being in the US and dating.
Yeah.
It's like you don't it's not up to the guy to make the first move in any stage. So you go to a bar and the girls there, at least my experience is they come up and start talking, which is not at all my experience in the US. It's more like they wait for you to come up. So
Right. And and these are people with legitimate interest in talking with you.
yeah.
And like these are mainly Southeast Asia cultures, or there other places as well, like South America.
I don't know, Mike, do you want to comment on that?
I don't have enough experience in South America to say. You know, I was in Peru for a couple of weeks, mainly in the Amazon, trying to find myself with ayahuasca. But so I didn't have much experience there. As far as like picking up girls, but
it seems like such a trivial subject now that I'm thinking about it. But
I mean, I don't know. I think it varies also. I wouldn't want to generalize like the region. I mean, I think there was a lot of differences country to country. So from what I experienced, I found that in general, in countries in say Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, I thought there was just generally a bigger distance between foreigners and local people. And it's not like, I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing, but I just found as a foreigner, I had a difficult time connecting with more local people versus Vietnam. It was like a complete different experience. In Vietnam, just in general, and it's not just girls, just in general, people were interested in me as a Westerner, like wanted to know about, just know about me, were interested. And so, I think so as far as just people and girls or whatever, it varies country to country, at least from what I experienced. Who was interested in you because you're a Westerner, who puts a wall in front of you because you're a Westerner,
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree about that. Like Thailand is a closed country. Like they do not care about what goes on beyond the borders of Thailand. It's very much, it's kind of like a North Korea. A lot of people don't realize it. It's kind of like a North Korea where they just are like, whatever the king says, that's what's happening. And we don't really, and this is, of course, this is generalizing, and there are obviously exceptions to this, but but that's the general thing. There is like there's just not a lot of interest in outside of Thailand, but in Vietnam it was a lot different, a lot more interest, and I think that you said that right, and I mean it really just kind of depends on where you are. Like Colombia, I found was pretty friendly, and I don't speak very good Spanish, so I was trying to communicate to a lot of people in English, and they were still pretty receptive, So
cool.
Yeah, and I kind of to add on to that, say talking about Thailand, for example, there is definitely a bigger barrier. Although I did find, as I kind of alluded to earlier, once I spent more time there, and it just takes more effort as a foreigner. Like in Vietnam, they're going to be outwardly like trying to talk to a foreigner, but in Thailand, it's like the foreigner who needs to make more effort. And I can't. That's something I can't say that's wrong either. Like, hey, it's your country, right? So I did find though, as I slowly could learn a few more things, that it became easier over time to then meet Thai people.
Have you been to Bali?
I have not, and I always hear awesome things about it. I was supposed to go to Indonesia. That's the flight that I didn't get on. Tell me about it.
So I mean, what you're saying as far as people being friendly or not, I mean, Bali, it takes the cake. They're the most friendly by far, and along with maybe Cambodia, but Bali is it's everybody seems to want to know about you. It's like everywhere you go, somebody's asking you, where are you from, and sometimes of course they're trying to sell you something, but a lot of times it's just sort of that's their natural way is being curious. They're kind of brought up to ask people questions. That's what I've heard anyway. It's like they really embrace tourists. They like tourists. They want to know where you're from. They want to know, like, they really want to know about you. And it's really, and a lot of them, most people speak English there, or at least some English.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they want to connect with you, it's really different. And I think that's why a lot of people kind of fall in love with Bali, because you just get this great experience, and everywhere you go, it seems like somebody's like, trying to make your day, and it's just really a happy kind of place.
That's sweet.
Awesome. I've only ever heard good things about Bali. I think, I still have that flight to take this year, so I think I'm gonna. It's the flight's to KL actually, but from KL, can hop on a cheap AirAsia flight to Indonesia, and I think maybe Indonesia 2015 might still happen for me. You want to come with me, Justin?
I would love to go, but we gotta go to Cambodia too, because I really
Oh,
want to
you can
go
go.
there.
Well, it's like we were talking about, maybe we'll be together, then kind of split off and reconverge, and
Yeah.
that's how you do it, man.
Yeah, Kevin, I'm shooting for 6 months from now. And I hope that listeners will be satisfied that I fulfill my objective. Try to get somewhere new and fresh. Because all I hear is all these awesome stories. I'm like I'm like the kid brother. You know what I'm saying? like.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are playing Super Mario, and I just want to play with you guys.
Yeah. So what are you, Justin? Are you working right now? You said you have a full-time job.
Yeah, I'm working full time in the city. I work in the construction market, and I sell building control systems that basically for new construction. Or renovation, we control the heating and air conditioning systems for all these, residential and commercial buildings. And pretty much you think of it, we've worked with it. Like anything from Yankee Stadium to the MoMA to Museum of Natural History. My company that I work for does like the heating and air conditioning. So if you don't like it, then if it's too hot, then I guess you have us to blame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And besides that comedy thing, I'm pursuing improv and taking classes at different comedy theaters and filming some sketches, which hopefully will be out soon that people can see. So keep an eye out for that, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
I think, I mean, what I appreciate, like, and just, some context for Kevin, for you and like your listeners are like, I think Justin, what you bring out is like that perspective of, I'll come out, or I guess we have like some fucking crazy story, and I think it's nice to have the backdrop of a perspective from you of like, okay, here's the things that are, that as someone back in the States, like what I think is, wow, that is an out there kind of thing. I think I appreciate that element. And all that said, I'm hoping that you've been, over the course of doing this show, been getting somewhat indoctrinated that you want to travel yourself some more.
Definitely.
Yeah. Right on. So what happens in 6 months then? Can you take off at that point, or?
Yeah, my objective is to have funds saved up and vacation ready to go to take off for at least it sounds so, you said it earlier, that the 2-week vacation, and it sounds so bad. I really want to take longer if I can, but I want to take 2 weeks and at least go to Southeast Asia and maybe meet up with Mike wherever he is in the world at that point.
Yeah, I'm banging the drum for Justin to take off like a month or two and try out the kind of more extended travel thing. I mean, it's something I know that, things we've touched on a little bit, but not in great depth. But I know for you, Justin, a big part of the reason why you haven't been able to necessarily go and do a longer term backpacking is you've got these student debts and things like this going on.
Yeah.
I mean, and for most people, I think, I would say to people like, oh, I can't quit my job to go backpacking. Like I have all these things. Most of your bills go away, right? Like if you're traveling, you're either renting out your place or not renting anymore. You're slimming down your belongings,
right?
And you don't have electricity bills. Those kind of bills, for the most part, go away. And travel to places like Southeast Asia and India does become affordable in a way that most people don't realize that it is.
Right.
But I know. In your case, though, you've got this like student debt, and I know that's a crushing one. I don't know, Kevin, do you have any thoughts on what someone like Justin could do to get out there?
Yeah, move to Chiang Mai and don't rent anything in New York.
Or what do you do about the student debt? That's the big issue, because you can get rid of the other bills, the apartment and the and electricity, all these things, but that's one I don't know a good answer to be completely honest.
Yeah, I don't either. I listen to. Do you guys know who James Altucher is?
Yes, I love him.
Okay, he talks a lot about this stuff.
I'm not as familiar with James.
He talks about this stuff.
Yeah, he would probably recommend not going to school, but it's kind of true. Yeah.
Well, there is something in this day and age. There's something to say for it, in that you can learn most things from the internet, and For when our parents grew up, it was a different landscape, and we were kind of brought up with that landscape in mind. And
Yeah.
I would say it might be becoming less relevant than it was, say, you know?
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Well, the thing, like I listened to, he has a podcast called Ask Al Tutor. He just fields questions randomly from anybody. And
I gotta check that
somebody,
out.
yeah, somebody was asking about, they had a lot of debt, like credit card debt. This is a little different than student debt,
Right.
but they had like a lot of credit card debt. And the guy was asking, like, I don't know what to do. He's like, I don't know if I should like just keep paying the minimum payments. He's like, I feel like I'm never getting out of this and I'm just kind of stuck. And James's answer was pretty interesting because he just said, he goes, yeah, just don't don't pay anything. Don't he's like, just let it all go. He's like, here's what's gonna
Really?
happen. And he gave the whole thing of like, here's what's gonna happen. He's like, you're not gonna pay it, and then they're gonna send you a letter. And then they're going to send you another letter. And then he's like, and then your credit score is going to be like, they're going to kill your credit. Like your credit score is going to be like 500 or whatever. And then, but that's fine. He's like, you can live without having good credit. So he's like, he was saying, he's like, my credit is horrible. And I don't really even know what it is, but he's like, I've never had to use my
Wow.
credit. He was going through this whole process of what would happen if you just didn't pay. And it was like, I was kind of convinced at the end of the thing. I was like, yeah, I think that's a good option. I mean,
Yeah, that's like a
it's not,
really out of the box answer to the debt question. Like,
yeah, yeah.
Well, what happens when it goes to collections is my question.
Your credit gets damaged, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm not an expert at all, so I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you. But I know that people survive all that stuff, and
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what? I saw an interesting documentary about credit card debt. I forgot what it's called, but they basically talk about all these, you know, they talk about all the, during the 2008 crash of the home crisis, they go into all the people who bought into that and all the bad, loans that they sold to people, and then credit card debt and things like that. And I didn't see that as a solution. Don't
yeah,
don't pay it. But then,
yeah,
but it's really crazy just watching it, how much people's debt controls their lives.
Yes, it is a
yeah.
measure of control, that for sure.
Oh yeah,
I mean, like literal, quite literally, like you've gotten trapped. You're kind of like in a trap, right? Like,
Yep.
um, and it's yeah. And I don't know if we've actually, I don't know if we've given this topic a lot of airtime, but so far, but like it's sort of, it's very true. I mean, we have a system that's set up to make you sort of. It's kind of a cycle in itself. You enter
yeah,
the system and you become dependent on staying in the system once you're in it. Like you get a degree to get to get a job that pays well, but you accrued debt to get there, and now you get this job, but it's all going back to paying what got you that in the first place, and now
Yep.
you're kind of stuck in this cycle. Yeah, and I'll let you speak on it too, Justin, from your personal kind of if you'd like, but that's
Yeah.
kind of my vision, how I look at it, sort of in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely it's definitely you realize it is kind of a system. And you know what, if you could talk to an anarchist too and say that this whole thing is, everything is a system, and the government, jobs are made by the government and things like that, and this whole thing is a big conspiracy. But
Yeah,
it's just been in existence for so long. It's a system that was bought into, ever since people stopped having to grow their own food, I guess, right?
right.
And it works, but you don't have to do the A, B, and C at, like, go to school, get into a lot of debt, work out that debt, buy a house, pay off that debt, and
yeah,
then be old. you know
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, you definitely don't have to. And I guess to circle things back to things we were talking about in the beginning of the episode, it's sort of like we can definitely go out and find the bad guys, screw the system, and find the oh, they're controlling us, all this stuff. You can do all that and fight these battles. Another way to do it is like we were talking before. Well, other ways we just try to make positive steps to construct it. So I guess for you, Justin, it's like, well, this is what it is, and it's like
yeah.
you'll figure out, you'll do what you're doing, you're still pursuing things you love, and then find ways to still travel.
Yeah.
And yeah,
6 months, baby.
yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, you just, I think it's a matter of just moving forward instead of trying to trying to find all the bad things. But you know, at the same time, it's kind of like you learn lessons. Like you were asking me, Mike, earlier about you know, being in Australia and reading that book and going, okay, now I got to, you know, now I'm ready to change everything. And a lot of that is just kind of rejecting the societal norms and going, okay, this is the way I was totally brought up, and I thought it was going to be this way, but it's not. It doesn't work. Like the system as it is doesn't work, you know, as we've been talking about. And so in every aspect, you got to question, okay, is this really the good thing, or is this just what everybody does because they think that's what they should do?
Right.
And if you can stop yourself from falling in that line, then you can have a lot more freedom and a lot more happiness in your life. And it's tough because a lot of times you have to go against what the mainstream is saying, what everybody's saying, and everyone around you is like, you're an idiot. But you know, a lot of times it's the best thing.
That is the toughest part, is to go against things that are like what I did. That was definitely the hardest part for me, like to say to my parents and my coworkers and friends, like, I'm just going to quit my job with no particular exact plan. I'm just going to do traveling. I have a one-way ticket to India. And they're just kind of like, you can't just do that. And I was like, well, it was hard to go through that, to really convince myself that I could, to go against what everyone's telling me and say, actually I can. It's really, really, really difficult to do that. But I think, like you're saying, Kevin, I think it's really important. At the same time, though, it's also not, the other side of it is not to just do things just because, it's not to just go against society for the sake of going against it. It's really just finding what you want as an individual, whether or not it's with or against what society says. It's whatever the thing that's you as an individual. Do that thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
But,
Freedom.
Well, back to freedom. Well, I think we've been going on for close to an hour now, so that's probably a good amount of time to record a podcast. So, Kevin, we're going to ask you a question that we ask all of our listeners on our show. And so I don't know if you have a closing question that you want to give us in turn from yours, but we usually ask our guests, what's something you would like to do in your life that you haven't done yet, that you'd like to do before you die?
Oh, that's a good question. I got a lot of stuff.
You can. What's your top one, or anyone?
Anyone. Your fourth one.
Fourth one. Let's see. I'd like to. Well, one thing is, I'd like to. Can I give you two? I have to do one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to create my business so that I really don't have to think about money. Like, it's not like I can do anything I want, and I don't even have expensive taste. Like, I don't get off on, like, owning a yacht. Like, it doesn't interest me, or anything, like cars or whatever.
Right.
But just to the point where it's like, I'm not thinking, like, I never think like, oh, I don't have enough money for that. Like, it's just, it's just everything I do is just like, oh, of course. Yeah. I'm just going to do that. Like, that's, So, I mean, that's really like, that gives you that, like one thing I noticed, like, people say, oh, it's all about the freedom. It's not the money, but it really is kind of both, because you can have a lot of freedom and be a backpacker and just staying in hostels that cost you like $7 a night or something. But you may really want other things, and you're like, that sucks. I can't do that because I don't have the money. So I think that there is a combination of freedom and money obviously buys you freedom to a certain extent. So yeah, I think that's kind of where I want to head with career. And then it allows you to relax, like, I noticed that, like, I sold a house a couple of years ago and I got a nice check from it. And I was like, I mean, the next few months, I just was so at ease about everything. It was like, because I knew I had it. Like, I wasn't like, oh, I got to pay rent. It was like, no, of course I got to easily pay rent. It's not a big deal. So so that's really one of the things I want to do on a more, like, personal, I guess, level. I'd like to fall in love. So like, that's something that I really want to do. And I don't really know what that looks like yet. So.
Yeah. Right. Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
How old are you, Kevin?
43.
Oh, you can do it. You will do it. My cousin, who is your age, just got married for the first time, and found her online. Hey, man,
Yeah.
Match, not to advertise,
Match.com.
Match.com.
We should do an affiliate link with them.
Yeah. No, I've run the gamut with the online dating. I don't know if that's going to be.
Yeah, it's
I go back to.
It gets kind of boring after a while, or very mechanical. I've said in the past, it gets very mechanical, automated. But
yeah, that's the thing. I think that it what online dating in the past has done. I haven't done it in since last summer, but it kind of like, I don't know. I think it takes, for me, I mean, it's all personal, but for me, it takes me out of like, I kind of rely a little bit too much on like, oh, well, I've got like 4 girls that are, I'm texting from online, and then I'm like kind of like not that motivated to do like real life meeting people.
In real life, right?
So I mean, obviously,
it can be,
so it's
that's a good point. You only have like so many hours in your day to devote towards like finding girls or whatever. So
right.
So it's you're using them online or in person. Yeah.
Yeah.
I try to use all the tools at my I'll go out try to meet people in person, but I'm not opposed to. Well, nowadays I'm not like on any dating sites right now, but I use this app Hinge, and it's kind of like Tinder also. Tinder's all prostitutes these days, but you match with a girl and it's like, hey, for 120 roses you can hang out with me. So Tinder is like it's a cool concept, but it's kind of terrible in the way it's panned out. But Hinge is kind of like it, but seems to be higher quality. It's all through friends of yours and stuff. So,
okay. Yeah.
I don't know. It's a very low, and it's also it's nice because it's not a lot of effort to do like something like that versus making a whole profile and all this crap.
Yeah.
But
I think you said it before. If you meet, no matter who it is, if you give them an opportunity and you are yourself and you put it out up front and say, like, I like to travel, I like to do a lot of these things, I'm looking for somebody who would not mind that, that's kind of, you put your deal out there and they respond back, I think you found a good match.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I think the things I really relate to both of the things that you said, Kevin. Like I'd also, whether I meet her on Tinder or Hinge or Match or in person, like the old-fashioned way, I'd love to fall in love as well. Maybe do that fantasy of doing a travel like longer-term trip with someone like that. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
And also setting up a business that's got some kind of where I don't have to, it's generating cash that give me the freedom, so I don't have to worry about it. Generate something, or if. Even if it's not passive income, just have something that I really love that I'm doing that can support the lifestyle,
Yeah.
So that my passion is my source of income.
Sweet.
Exactly. Yeah. So do you guys have anything, I'll just turn it around, maybe really generic about it, but do you have any like 1 or 2 things that you want to do before you die?
Yeah. Well, those were mine, I guess. I just stole yours.
Yeah.
But I think the general dream that's the dream is for me. It's like just finding that thing, like what to do with my time that I really enjoy. Like, and traveling was part of it. But then like when I'm stable, like what's the thing I want to be doing with my time that I really like love? And I'm still searching on exploring things. I'm exploring things I like doing and just trying to find that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to be less sentimental and emotional and be more silly, and I would like to create a comedy music album, and I would like to do a one-man comedy show. There you go.
Nice.
That's it.
Nice.
That's it. I'm working on them.
Yeah.
I'll make a comedy album with you if you want. We can collaborate.
I would love to collaborate for a couple.
Might be
songs.
easier if we're living in the same actual physical location though.
Right.
I know you can do a podcast over Skype. Maybe we can do music over Skype too.
Yeah.
Why not?
You can pull that off.
I'll have Kevin do like yo, this is Kevin. Like do a shout out.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, thanks for coming on to
thank you.
Earth. And we're really happy to have been part of Freedom Lovin Podcast as well.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm glad you guys found me and we hooked up. I love the concept of your show and the way you guys run it. It's
likewise.
Awesome.
Yeah, likewise, man. So folks that want to find your show, you're on iTunes. That's where I got your show. Are you on like Stitcher, SoundCloud? What do you?
Yeah, I think I'm just iTunes and Stitcher and
iTunes and Stitcher.
freedomlovin.com. You can find me.
Cool. And you have a Twitter, Facebook.
Yeah, all the above. Yeah, you just go to the website and then you can
From
click on all that
freedomlovin.com.
stuff.
Okay,
Yep.
Lovin without the G.
Without the G, yeah.
Yeah, cool. And I guess for folks that are listening on your end that want to hear me and Justin talk to other travelers and all that good stuff, we're Walking the Earth Podcast. Yeah, we're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're on SoundCloud. We're at facebook.com/Walking the Earth Podcast, and our Twitter handle is at WTE Podcast. But our website is where you can find all this information,
which is WTEpodcast.com.
That is correct.
Yeah, and I love your picture on your iTunes. The little
thank you.
picture. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was from the desert in Rajasthan, India. A friend took that picture, and then another friend that I met in a hostel in Chiang Mai helped to actually, make it look good and like add the, did the photoshopping and everything to make it look nice. Yeah, so it came out really well. I was really happy with that. So thank you, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks. It was awesome talking to you, Kevin.
Yeah, really good talking to you, Kevin.
Yeah, it was good. It's great talking to you guys, and good luck with your show. And I'm sure we'll bump into each other again soon.
Awesome.
All right, cool, man.
I will catch you later.
Thank you for
cheers.
tuning in, folks. Catch you next time.
Next time on Walking the Earth podcast, Mike flies down to sunny Miami and checks in with Mariana Rigo 6 months after returning to the U.S. And we hear what she's getting into, what her hopes and aspirations are, and what emotions Mike can expect to go through as he transitions back to U.S. life. Check it out online at WTEpodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe to us on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at WTE Podcast.